It's a natural question to ask, is a reaction an allergy or an intolerance to something? Remember a few moments ago I specified that I listed 12 different ways people can react to things aside from allergy and intolerance. But on the energy level, the difference is really quite clear and quite obvious. If you have a reaction to something energetically, we call it an allergy. If you don't have a reaction to it in the same way, it may be an intolerance, but not an allergy. Intolerance means that you can handle a certain amount of something, but not more than a certain amount. An allergy is a binary event. You react or you don't react. So if you're exposed to substance and you react energetically, that's an allergy. If you don't react energetically the same way we tested, that's not an allergy, but it may be an intolerance. Allergy is more energy-based. Intolerance is more metabolism-based. If your body simply cannot metabolize things fast enough, can't process, or you've got certain what I call metabolic blockages going on, so you cannot handle certain kinds of substances, then that could be an intolerance. For example, many people have a sensitivity or an allergy or intolerance to certain nuts. Now the interesting thing is that most of these nuts have different family origins. So walnuts are not at all related to Brazil nuts, not at all related to coconuts, not at all related to almonds, and so on. So if you're reacting to most or all of those without that family connection, then what is it you are reacting to? Well, the thing is that these foods might have certain specific molecules in common. Some of the molecules they have in common will be some of the fatty acids. So if your body cannot process fatty acid of some sort, some specific fatty acid, and you eat that food, the body can react to it, sometimes quite strongly. So many times people who are said to be very allergic to something actually are not allergic in my definition of the word, but rather they react because they cannot metabolize the particular components of that food or foods. A common fatty acid, for example, is DHA, docosahexaenoic acid. Now that's a especially important one because it's the fatty acid the body prefers to use for making cell membranes in the nervous system and the retina. So if you can't process that as well, your nervous system, the cell membranes, we built from other fatty acids, and they don't work as well as the DHA. So that means your nervous system then becomes, shall we say, a bit more delicate. Then that in turn means you can react to other things more readily, and so on. So you can have a whole avalanche of reactions, seemingly unrelated, but they all can be because of inadequate metabolism on some level in the body. DHA is manufactured in the body, but perhaps not in adequate amounts. And yet we must have DHA in our retina for proper vision and our nervous system for proper functioning and so on. So if you've got a DHA metabolism issue, maybe even a tiny bit can cause you to react. But that's not an allergy in my definition. That could be a type of intolerance. You can't handle it because there's no room for it in your body to be processed. It's like a glass full of water. If you carefully fill the glass, you can actually put the water a little above the rim because of the surface tension of the water holds it in place. But one more drop after that, the water comes spilling over the edge. And that can be what some people call an allergy. I don't. That's a kind of intolerance. But you can see why people can react to things, and yet we don't show it as an intolerance. I'm sorry, as an allergy, but only an intolerance. Now, a person can have a zero tolerance for something and not be allergic. If they are allergic, they also have a zero tolerance, any amount they react to. But you can have a zero tolerance and still not be allergic in my definition. Now, not only have I devised that particular definition of allergy, which as I said before is very, very similar to the original definition, the meaning of allergy, but I devised, starting in 1980, some energy procedures, bioenergetic procedures, to change that energy pattern. So if the energy pattern of a food and your body's energy pattern are not compatible with each other, then you can get a reaction. But through the methods I've developed, we can literally retune your body's energy system. Your bioenergy system is like the blueprint for the way your body functions. So if we can reprogram that in a sense, retune it so it doesn't react to a substance anymore, such as a nut, then that allergy basically then disappears. Because the body takes care of it all by itself. The metabolism can start working now and so on. It might take a while to do that with various kinds of bioenergetic corrections, but we've been very, very successful at doing that. Let me give you maybe 3 stories about that. Some years ago, I was in Switzerland, and one of my students said to me one day that his young son had just been stung by a bee. And is there something we could do about that? He almost died for that bee sting. It was an anaphylactic reaction, and he came very close to dying. I said, well, I don't know. Let's see what we can do. So I had him go out and gather 3, actually, in this case, Swiss bees. I have no idea what variety they were. So we used those. They were dead at this time, of course. We used those in our bioenergy correction procedure, retune his body energy. So when we finished that, he no longer tested, muscle testing, energy testing, that he was reacting to them. Well, it's one thing to have no test reaction showing. It's something else to maybe experience the bee sting. A few weeks later, his mother took him to the medical doctor for his desensitization shots for the bee sting allergy. MD was going to just start getting with shots, but the mom said, no, I insist, you must test him first. MD said, no, we don't do that. You saw he almost died from it. We really know how allergic he is. She said, well, please do it anyway. So the MD said, okay. So he took the usual substance they use to inject for desensitization shots, diluted it way, way, way down to an extremely small dilution, gave him a little injection in the skin, no reaction. So he kept making it stronger and stronger and stronger until he was back up to full strength for his solution and no reaction. So in a very puzzled way, he said, well, we have nothing to offer, so just go home. So that was one indication that this kind of correction method we use, bioenergetic correction method, for my definition of allergy really works. There are many others, of course. I taught that procedure to some of my students in Germany, and a few weeks after, one of the students there did a correction, a bee sting correction, on a woman who was so sensitive to bees, she always carried her epinephrine kit with her. If people have anaphylactic shots, they get an injection of epinephrine that can neutralize the effect and they literally save their lives. So she always carried her epinephrine kit with her. Well, as events in the world have it, a few weeks after the energy correction, she actually got stung by a bee. She got no reaction whatsoever to it. She didn't even bother with epinephrine because there was nothing going on. So there's another case where the real bee sting occurred and there's no way that she needed to take the epinephrine because there was no reaction. Another case was 2 of my students, both of them were medical doctors, were in Jakarta visiting. And they're having lunch with a friend at an outdoor cafe. And in these kinds of places, a fruit to drink is very common. So the person they were having lunch with picked up his glass of a fruit drink to take a sip, had not realized that a bee had flown into the glass. So when he took the sip, the bee came into his mouth, stung him on the lip. Instantly, besides a bit of pain, ouch, my friends could see his lip growing larger from swelling. So what they did is they immediately did what I teach in the book that I published in 1988. This is the lay person's version of the procedure. Did what we call the allergy tap. And that swelling immediately went down, disappeared, the pain went away, and in a few moments there was nothing left, except inside the lip there was a hard white ring where the bee sting was done, and the bee stinger was still there in place. They had to pull it out. So that was another example of a bee sting arrangement where our bioenergetic corrections worked extremely well. And of course, over the years, we've got hundreds and hundreds of those kinds of examples. Now, if you've got an intolerance to something as opposed to an allergy, then we do have some energy techniques that can increase your tolerance. And that works, I believe, by stimulating certain metabolic processes in the body. So we do have ways of doing that. But the best way to increase tolerance, of course, is to work on the metabolism of the body. That means eating the proper foods, avoiding the wrong foods, avoiding junk things, toxic things, synthetic things, and so on, eating organic as best you can, and taking care to eat the proper diet for you. Not everybody has the same ideal diet, and so another thing we can do in our work is to test to see which things are best for you to eat and which things you should avoid. One of the things about the bioenergetic approach to dealing with allergies and intolerance and other kinds of reactions is that it's fast and easy. It's not painful. When you go to a medical allergist and he gives you desensitization shots, what happens is he's giving you a small amount of a substance which for your body is very, very toxic. You're reacting to it. You get an allergic or an intolerance reaction very quickly to larger amounts of it. And by giving that shot to your body repeatedly, again and again, day after day, week after week, sometimes month after month, what's really happening is that constant repetitive stressing of your immune system fatigues that part of your immune system until it can no longer react. And therefore, you don't get the reaction, not because your immune system in your body is healthier, but because it's weaker and cannot respond. I've seen that so many times. I think it's very sad that it works that way. I previously mentioned my book published in 1988 called Cure Your Own Allergies in Minutes. That's this book right here. This is the English edition. It also is still available in the German edition and has been available in the French and the Dutch. You get the idea. It's been a very successful book. A second edition is being prepared and will be available in the not-too-distant future, so keep an eye open for that. Meanwhile, there's also a free allergy testing and allergy type of correction manual available from one of my websites called www.cureyourownallergiesinminutes.com. That's all one word. On there you will read some more things about the book, and you will also be able to download for free a manual showing how to do the testing and part of the correction. That's the layperson version. It's an excerpt from the book. There's a lot more to it in the book that's not on that free manual, but it'll be available in a new edition of the book in the near future.